is going on, guys? It's Angelo from Fear the Beard Football Channel. I was like legit right in the middle of making a video for you guys, and then somebody gives me a phone call. Like, I use my phone for my videos and everything, and like I was like legit right at the end. So, we're covering the NFC East today. The Redskins were my last ones, and I swear to God, I was like I just finished half of their predictions for the season, and you guys don't understand how frustrating that is. But so I put do not disturb mode on so I could finish this video without any interruptions. But let's just go on ahead and take it from the top. So, the NFC East, man, this is always the hardest division to predict, because it's not that it's it's a relatively good division. It's just that it's always a different team each year that wins it. You know what I mean? Like, this is the only division where for the last 15 years, I believe in the last 15 years, they haven't had one single back-to-back division champion. So, it's got the most controversy in it, and it always comes down to week 17. So let's dive in to see who's going to come out on top in the division. So let's start out with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just going to breeze through their record, and then I'm going to go on ahead and talk about each team. So let's go on ahead and do that. I have them beating the Rams and the Falcons, followed by a loss to the Seattle Seahawks, a win against Cleveland, a win against the Giants. I have them losing to Arizona, beating the Redskins, and then losing to Philadelphia. So I have them 5-3 through the first 8 games of the season. I have them doing a little bit better in the second half, beating Pittsburgh, losing to Minnesota, 3 straight wins to the Redskins, the Ravens, and the Bengals. A loss against the Niners, followed by 2 straight wins against the Eagles and the Giants. So I have them going 11-5. And if you remember the Baltimore prediction on my AFC North video, there's games you win that you shouldn't, and then there's games you lose that you shouldn't. And I just feel like it's almost like when they played New Orleans 2 years ago, and they were coming off of a 2-game win streak, and they ended up beating the Saints 10-3. There was a lot of hype going into that game, like, hey, they're probably going to win. They're looking good. And I feel like that's what's going to happen, because theoretically Baltimore should win. They are the better team, but I think that this is going to be one of those scenarios. Anyway, so I have them losing only 1 division game, and that is to the Philadelphia Eagles midway through the season. So I have them going 11-5 throughout the year. This team legit has a chance of, they could be a 13-3 team. They have that ceiling. They could be a team that goes 8-8. They can. Like, we know the Dallas Cowboys can go 8-8 or 9-7. But that's their floor right there. So, in order for that to happen, like last year, I felt like they could have been so much better last year. But a lot of the issues is they were trying to have Dak throw more just to see if he was worth that money, because it was a contract year. And I feel like that played a little bit into it. Also, this is not the same offensive line that had Zeke Elliott run for 1,600 yards and that had DeMarco Murray run for 1,800 yards. That was a good offensive line, and Zeke hasn't been able to repeat that success because he hasn't had the same offensive line since then. So, that's been a big issue for the Cowboys, is they just haven't had the same offensive line. They haven't had a bad offensive line. They have a top 10, but they don't have the dominant one that they had back in the day. Because the reason why the Cowboys were able to go 12-4 that year with DeMarco Murray, then, they went 4-12 the following year, but then the Dak's first season right after that in 2016, they go 12-4, or was it 13-3? I think they went 13-3 actually that year. Yeah, they did go 13-3. So, the reason why they're so good that's the Cowboys playing at their best. When they have a strong offensive line, they're able to run the ball, and they're able to just run out the play clock. If you see Dallas win the time of possession battle, where they have control of the ball for anywhere from 35 to 40 minutes of the game, 9 times out of 10 they're going to win. I'm sorry, guys. My nose is just really itchy this morning. So, but that's Cowboys' MO, because they don't have a really good defense. When you can win the time of possession battle, you can make a mediocre defense look above average. Like 2 years ago, they had the 8th best defense when they went 10-6. And a lot of it was because they would just win the time of possession battle so much, this defense was off the field. It's almost the reverse of the Washington Redskins, where they actually have a very decent defense, but their offensive line is just such trash that by the fourth quarter they're gassed and they're just giving up all these garbage minutes and stuff like, or these garbage time minutes and points and stuff like that and yardage. And it's the exact opposite of that. So if Dallas can win the time of possession battle consistently and more often than not, they're going to win more games. But if they're constantly battling from behind and Dak is constantly having to get into these shootouts, they're not going to win these games, because that's not Dak's MO. Dak is a game manager, and he's one of the best, and there's nothing wrong with being a good game manager. That is not a disrespectful statement. So, for people trying to sit here and say, like, you don't need to be disrespecting Dak like that, that is not disrespectful. Like, a game manager is what you want. Like Patrick Mahomes, someone like that, those are far and few between of guys that like are accurate but have a cannon for an arm and have that gunslinger's mentality. So, I believe Dak is top 10, and I'm calling him a game manager. So, I think he's a good quarterback, and I just love his demeanor. So, but yeah, I have them going 11-5. I guess I'll do the meet in the middle on the floor ceiling deal with them. But let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I have them beating the Redskins, the Rams, the Bengals, followed by 2 losses to San Fran and the Steelers. And then I have them winning 5 games in a row to Baltimore, New York Giants, Dallas, Giants again, and then the Browns. So I had them starting out 8-2. At that point, the Cowboys would be 7-3. But then I have them going 500 the rest of the season. 2 losses back-to-back against Seattle and Green Bay, followed by a win against New Orleans and Arizona, and then losing to Dallas and beating the Redskins. So I have them going 11-5 through all 16 games. I had them only losing 1 division game, so I'll have them tied with the Cowboys, and at the end of the video I'll get to who I believe is going to win the division, between the two, with a tied record and a tied division record. But first of all, I love the addition of Darius Slay. He's been overlooked a lot because he's been on the Lions, but this is one of the top cornerbacks in the league. He is like one of the only few man-to-man guys that can actually get up and play press coverage in your face. So he reminds me a little bit of a Namni Asamoah while he was with Oakland, if that kind of if any of you guys remember him. And so I think that's going to help them out. I mean, if CeeDee Lamb becomes a true number 1 guy, they have a guy to combat that. Up until then, he's going to obviously be covering Amari Cooper, and I think he can do that. Amari Cooper, to me, is not a true number 1 guy. He's a good receiver, but he's very inconsistent, fantasy football-wise. I mean, he's a number 1 receiver, I believe, less than 50% of the time. Now, those numbers were skewed, and there was a lot higher when he first came to Dallas because he just went on this huge run. But he's a boom-bust type guy. He's not an everything-in-between type deal. So, but he's a really high-end boom-bust guy. So, But, I love what they did. I don't know. I wasn't high on Jalen Reagor coming into the draft. But they went on ahead and got him. I think between him or J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, somebody needs to step up and be the true number 1 guy in that offense, because that's all they're missing is a true number 1 receiver. Alshon Jeffries, in my opinion, is a good number 2 guy. He's more of he's a higher end Sammy Watkins, in my opinion, if that makes sense. But they're almost 2 in the same. And Carson Wentz, man, he is a good quarterback. He's a top 10 guy, and if he's healthy, he's top 5. We forget he had an MVP caliber season the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And I feel like they would have still made it to the Super Bowl if he was the quarterback, but he's got to stay healthy. For all you people out there that's saying Wentz is trash, yes, does he have a playoff win? No, but he's been the quarterback for one of their playoff games, I want to say, maybe 2, and he hasn't stayed healthy. That is his only drawback. But if you're going to talk to me about his gameplay and say that he's not a good quarterback, dude, you just, do you even watch football? Bro, come on. And Miles Sanders is good. I think Jordan Howard is definitely a good number 2 guy. So they got a good 1-2 punch there. This is a team that has the ability to win about 12 games. I don't want to put them any higher than that, but I love their defense. They have a really good defense in place, and they have one of the better offensive lines in the league when it's fully intact and when it's fully healthy. So, they could win probably 13. I mean, but this team has to be like, a well-oiled machine, in my opinion, in order. Like, they have a great ownership. They have a good GM. So, they just have a recipe for success there in Philadelphia. And that's the reason why they were able to squeak into the playoffs last year. But let's move on to the Giants real quick. This is a team that I don't necessarily like at all. I've questioned everything they've done in the last 3 to 4 years after that 12-4 season, and I think that David Gettleman needs to just give up and retire. He's stuck in the 90s. I don't know. I don't like David Gettleman as a GM. He used to be ours, and I liked him for a couple years when he was with the Panthers. But after right around the time of the rescinded franchise tag of Josh Norman, I did not like that. I felt like, if you just came off of a Super Bowl loss, you do everything in your ability to keep the team intact that just took you to the Super Bowl. And he did not do that. So, and I'm glad that he was gone after that, because he just does not need to be a GM. He's awful at it. I'm sorry, find another job, bro, for real. You've reached the last 2 drafts. Maybe Thomas turns out to be a good, offensive lineman. I don't know. But, Daniel Jones, yeah, he had a fairly decent season last year, but can you really justify him being the number 8 overall pick? I can't. Even down to Saquon Barkley, I mean, was he the best player available there in the draft? Yes, he was. But your team did not need a running back. Your team needed a quarterback. And I'm sorry, but I think Josh Allen is a whole entire tier above Daniel Jones and would have been a much better fit at quarterback than your boy Daniel Jones is. Because I personally don't like Daniel Jones. He did okay last year, but when you really got nothing to play for, what's there to lose at that point? You know what I mean? I used to play sports. I know what it's like when you're an awful team and there's no reason to even there's no reason to even try, but you almost come in with this mentality. It's okay, things are already bad. I can't screw this up any worse, and then you wind up messing around and having a good game. And how many points does he, how much yardage does he really get when it comes to garbage time? That's my thing. And so, but I have the Giants going 4-12, 2-6 in both halves of the season. Losing to Pittsburgh, Chicago, the 49ers, followed by a win to the Rams, a loss to the Cowboys, a win to the Redskins. I have them losing to the Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So 2-6 in the first half. The second half, I have them going 2-6, losing to the Redskins, the Eagles, the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Cardinals. Or I'm sorry, I have them beating the Seahawks and the Cardinals. So they do get 2 consecutive wins. That's my bad, guys. But 3 losses at the end of the season to the Browns, the Ravens, and the Dallas Cowboys. So, I feel like what they need to do is take another offensive lineman. If Thomas can somehow wind up being good, they need to get another guy to pair him with. That's just what needs to happen, because if they can build a good offensive line, then I will understand the investment in Saquon Barkley. But if you don't take another offensive lineman, then you've legit just wasted 3 straight. As a matter of fact, at that point, it would be 4 straight draft picks, because it just would not make sense if you turned around and got a receiver or a defensive guy. I think honestly, if you didn't take Tristan Wirfs, I've said all along, I felt like they should have took Tristan Wirfs in that spot. And if you didn't, I feel like the only person that would have been justifiable is probably Isaiah Simmons, because he would have been a good all-around hybrid piece in that defensive side of the ball. So that's the only outlier on the defensive end. But still, you're not, I can't justify your picks if you go on ahead and draft someone completely different. You need to get another offensive lineman that's at least going to help you sustain drives, run the ball, keep Daniel Jones upright, and make him look better than he actually is. So that's my opinion on how you fix the Giants long term. But this offensive line needs to be rebuilt completely. Except for Kevin Zeitler. That's the smartest move they ever did when they traded Odell Beckham Jr. to the Browns. They got Kevin Zeitler. I loved that pick. And if they can get one more guy, if Thomas can actually be like a middle of the road type dude, you know what I mean? And if, you know, like they get another dude to pair with him and Zeitler, and that guy ends up panning out, like what if you turn around and get another Quentin Nelson? This is a better ball club with just one more offensive lineman, and if Thomas ends up panning out to be a halfway decent left tackle. So, you know, but that's like, that is legit. They're like only saving grace. So just watch out, Giants fans. If you guys hit on another offensive lineman, if you hit on this one that you just drafted and you hit on another one, then this franchise turns around because you're able to control the game clock, just like the Cowboys do. So, you know, and you know what? Maybe the offensive play calling gets better with Jason Garrett. I have no idea. Maybe he's a better offensive coordinator than he is a head coach. So, you know, like now that I'm really thinking about it, like there is a chance, this team does have a chance to win like 7 games, but that is their like legit ceiling to me, is 7, maybe 8, but I don't see it any more than that. So, now let's get into the Redskins so I can wrap up this video and get ready to go to work. You know, and I'm breezing through this team because I've got a lot more to talk about to this team than I do with their actual record. I have them going 1-15. The only game I have them winning is in the mid game of the season. I have them beating the New York Giants. So, you know, that would be their 8th game of the season. I have them losing to Philly, Arizona, Cleveland, Baltimore, the Rams, the Giants, the Cowboys. They do beat the Giants in the second matchup, and then they lose to the Lions, the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and let's see, the Panthers and Philadelphia. So I have them going 1-15, and let me just get in to talk about the Redskins real quick. So first of all, like, you know, like my pops, he is a huge Cowboys fan. So I was brought up to hate like the rest of the NFC East, but I feel so bad for Redskins fans because you guys are such a rich fan base, a great fan base. Like they really are. Like I'm telling you, like the NFC East has the best fan base of any of like fans in the NFL. They really do. Eagles fans are diehard, Giants fans, Redskins fans, and the Cowboys fans. We all know what they are, and a lot of that has to do with Jerry Jones because he's such an awesome guy at branding and marketing. So, you know, but like all of these teams, like this is all historic teams right here. We all remember what the Redskins used to be. And ever since Dan Snyder bought that team, you know, like him and James Dolan are hands down the worst owners in the NFL. I mean, not in the NFL because James Dolan owns the Knicks, but in sports, James Dolan and Dan Snyder are the absolute worst. So I knew this like video right here, the NFC East one, was going to be the longest because I can legit talk about this division all day. The Redskins actually have, like I alluded to earlier, they actually have a decent defense. They're the reverse Cowboys. They have a decent defense. Their offensive line is trash, and it really like it masks how good their defense actually is because they're that bad. You know, they can't get any protection for Haskins. You know, Adrian Peterson miraculously is putting up really decent numbers for a guy who was 34 last year. So, you know, him and Frank Gore, man, when the world ends, it's going to come down to Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson, Betty White as well. But anyway, they need to do something in the draft with the offensive line. They've got to address that because they could be such a better team. Alex Smith, in my opinion, should be the starter for this team going forward. I don't believe in Haskins. I'm not saying that like it looks like he's going to be the starter. I'm not even saying that I feel like I don't even know if there's really a quarterback controversy, but I just know Alex Smith is a better quarterback than Dwayne Haskins. You know, a lot of his college numbers were skewed because Paris Campbell was such an elite college receiver. I don't know if that translates into the NFL for him, but in college, he was elite. He was a great screen pass receiver. You know, I loved the pickup for Ron Rivera as their head coach. I have a buddy of mine who's a Redskins fan, and before they were like, you know, really going down with hiring a new guy, I told him, I was like, hey man, I think Ron Rivera is going to be the next head coach for the Redskins. And, you know, about 2 weeks later it happened, and with them signing Chase Young, you know, I love that pickup because, you know, that's the best player available. You've got to go on ahead and do that, I guess. Like, I know that's a little contradicting for what I just said about the Giants with Saquon Barkley, but That one to me made more sense than if they had reached and gotten like an offensive lineman, just because you can't pass on a guy who has the potential to be a 15 to 20 sack per year type guy. And that's what Chase Young is. So he's only going to make the defense better. But like going forward, they have to address that offensive line, because if they are ever going to do anything, or if they want to at least have success, they need an offensive line. And that is going to be the one thing that truly gets them to actually to back on the right road. But I just feel so bad, because for 30 years, this is the only team that hasn't had an 11-win season. And this is a team that had such a rich history. And then I feel bad that, Dan Snyder's botched the whole team name change. I don't even feel like they needed to change the name at all. Like, it's stupid in my opinion. Like, I understand that everyone has their different opinions on things, but like, who's it really hurting? Realistically, like, sit down and ask yourself, 20 years from now, is it gonna matter that they changed the name or they didn't change the name? Like, that's how I view things. And I really feel like, honestly, guys, like, if we all sat down and asked ourselves, in 20 years, is this gonna matter? I think we'd have a lot less issues in this world. So, I'm not gonna dive too deep onto the philosophy side of things, but this is just a team that like needs major upgrades on the offensive line, and that would really solve their problem. They're a decent offensive line away from actually being a competitive bunch, but and then they also need a legitimate quarterback, because Alex Smith is 36. He's almost out of the NFL. He's got one. I mean, he might try this year, but I don't think he's got another year in him after like that surgery. So, but hats off to him, man, for like doing that whole entire comeback. Like, that is a tough thing to come back from. Like, the man nearly died, and he's getting back on a football field. So, hats off to Alex Smith. Dan Snyder, you don't deserve him. You don't even deserve the team. So go fuck yourself. So I have the Cowboys winning the division. I think they're going to score more than the Philadelphia Eagles, so that's where that tiebreaker is going to happen. But I have both of those teams in the playoffs. I believe I would think that I think they're going to be both wild card teams. I don't think anyone's going to secure a first round bye. I haven't had a chance to really look at how my playoff bracket's going to look out. I'm going to move on to that segment later. Then I have the Giants obviously going 4-12 and finishing out third in the division, followed by the Redskins going 1-15 and securing the number 1 overall pick, who is, in my opinion, they're most likely, if they get the number 1 overall pick, it's most likely going to be Trevor Lawrence. I either see him going to Jacksonville, or I see him going to, the Redskins. But hear me out on this, guys. This is not NFC East related, okay? Long pause for, to build dramatic effect, obviously. What if, with all the picks that the Patriots have, what if Bill Belichick is legit just trying to go 4-12 this year? Like I predicted earlier that he would go 4-12. And use his draft capital to go on ahead and trade up, because if you go 4-12, even 5-11, that secures you to have like a 7th or an 8th overall pick. And you're not telling me that he can't go on ahead and use that pick for use his draft capital that he has to go on ahead and trade up to get Trevor Lawrence and get his next quarterback. I think that's what Bill Belichick wants to do. I really think about it. Like, I mean, the guy is like, he's, first of all, like, he is talking to the media a lot more than he ever has. And I think that what he's trying to do is like, and he might not, but I could just see him legit going ahead and be like, you know what, fuck this season. We're going to go on ahead and use the draft capital we got. Maybe wind up with the 6th, 7th, 8th. Even they could even wind up with a 4-12 record. You could legit wind up with the 4th pick in the NFL draft. And you mean to tell me that you can't trade like your first, maybe a 2nd, and then next year's first? Because they don't, like, the Patriots don't care about picks. Sony Michel was the first round draft pick they had in, like, that they had used it since, I believe, Lawrence Maroney, if I'm not, and he was, I don't even think he was a first round pick. So I'm sorry if I don't remember correctly, but they haven't taken a guy in the first round in so long before Sony Michel came around. And that's just like, they don't care about draft picks. So I could legit see them just giving up a bunch of draft capital to go on ahead and get the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. So, watch out for that, guys. But that's going to conclude my video. So, I'm sorry that they're coming out for, I apologize that my videos aren't like, coming out as frequent, but, life happens and stuff like that. But I'm still going to keep on pushing these out for you every once in a while. So stay tuned for my next video. My next video, I'm going to probably be recording in the next couple days, and I'm actually going to have a guest on there, a guy that I work with who's a really good friend of mine. His name is Brad Shuford. So he's a guy that I talk to at work a lot about sports. Me and him mainly talk about basketball. But we're going to be covering the debate between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Who's the better quarterback right now and in the long run? Because I've been just seeing a lot of that, and I kind of want to give my take on it and why I believe, the guy that I think is better. So, tune in for the next video. I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe out there. Stay Rona free.